Show of hands. We're going to get rolling here. You rolling, Johnny? All right, welcome to week 2, guys. Congrats for making it. And we've lost a couple, so maybe they just got busy. If you get busy at any time in the next 6 weeks, all of these are uploaded to our website, so you can just hop on, pick back up where you left off. If you think you missed something in the first week, you can listen to me all over again. That might be taxing, but it's there for you. And so we just don't want you to, I want this to be an effective class, not wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, sorry you missed it, move on. So my goal is to make sure that you actually are doing this right. So I have a lot of helpers. If you are struggling with something, raise your hand high, and one of these fine young gentlemen will come over and make sure that something is right, okay? Now, if you're at home doing that, that's a little difficult. They can't quite make it. But, you know, if you're listening from at home and you can't make it in the store and you're struggling with something, feel free to come in during the week. We're here to help. We'll do what we can for you. So, all right. So, I need an honest show of hands. Who actually played a G chord nice and clean this week? Once counts. Did you? Everybody's got a guitar. Did you actually get it? Nice and clean. Young man over here in the red jacket. All right. Is this your second time here? Yeah. Awesome. So, we're going to review that chord for anybody who maybe only played it once. So again, like real quick, and you might want to take your jacket off if that helps. You got to be comfortable. So that was I spent a lot of time last week talking about how we need to be comfortable, right? So getting that guitar up nice and high so your wrist is straight. And I'm going to have Caleb, if you're not busy, I'm going to have you review what this young man in the red coat's doing for his G chord. So go ahead and help him out, and we're going to make that nice and clean. So get into position with a G, everybody. I need you to get ready to play a G. Remember, we start that chord with our ring finger. That's where you mount first. So we're going to look at that high string on the 3rd fret, right? And we're going to put that finger as close to the fret as possible. And just make sure you hear that first. Oh yeah, we got some guitars out of tune already. Alright, and then, so I would bring that neck up a little bit higher so your hand's not all kinked over. If you're feeling tension in that wrist, your neck needs to come a little higher. Okay, so that's the first challenge. And then go ahead and drop your middle finger all the way over that fret and make sure we have that low note. So let's alternate. We are going to go low note, high note. Low note, high note. Try to follow my rhythm. Keep going. Ethan? Can you please double check this young man right over here a little bit? And so we're going to want to make sure our fingers are close to that fret. And it's going to be easier. Just make sure that it's sounding nice and clean. Oh yeah, let's know those G's, all right? So now go ahead and drop. You got that. And now also make sure these 3 strings from the B, G, and D, those are nice and clean. So from there, we're just going to play the bottom 4 strings. Nice. Ah, sounds good. Yeah. Beautiful. You're late. All right, is your guitar in tune?
Yeah.
All right. All right, we're playing a G.
Oh, okay.
Do you know what that is yet?
Yeah, I gotta get my cheat sheet.
That's all right. So an interesting thing about the G, you don't actually need the other two low notes. Like, these are great, right? But I'm just playing the bottom. If I can just use my one finger for that, right? And it sounds like beautiful music. So one of the things about that makes guitar difficult, I've covered like how many strings there are and why we're in bad position, etc. And getting your hand to do that stretch takes a little bit. And so if all the positions are right, I'm not even using these two for that third one, and I can play my bass note, right? We all played the bass, so let's all do that again. I see some relaxed hands. Get back into the G. Okay. So if I hit the thumb, everybody hit the thumb one time. And now hit your high string. Beautiful. Okay, so did everybody have a chance to grab the new lesson sheet when they came in? Raise your hand if you didn't get one, and our assistants will get you a new sheet. Pat, did you show us how to play guitar today? All right. So on this sheet, one of the things that kind of can be a challenge, even if you know the chords, is what do I do with this right hand? So we're going to go over that today, and I've got 4 practical exercises for you to take and go back and do homework. Okay? So I have 2 finger style exercises and 2 strumming exercises. And I think that they're the most practical that you almost could do any song with. But it actually makes your practice a little bit more enjoyable. So on the first, what I called finger style exercise, I'm referring to thumb, 1, 2, 3. Pretty easy, okay? So what that looks like is if everybody takes their thumb on that low G that we're hitting, and just go ahead and rest the other 3 fingers on the bottom 3 strings in order. It's just kind of a nice place for them to sit, right there. 1 on each string. So everybody hit their thumb in the G chord, and now hit your pointer finger on, try to pull off. This should be the 3rd string from the bottom, 4th string from the top. If you aren't getting this sound, raise your hand high and somebody will come help you. It's actually just an open note. You don't even need your hand for this part. This is great having assistants. Thank you, young man. We don't want anyone to struggle. Okay, so we've got our thumb, and we have our index. So just do that for me. 1. Okay. If you're confident with that, now we're going to do our 2nd finger. Okay, you see how these fingers work, right? 1, 2, and 3, 1 on every string. Does anyone have any questions with that? Don't be afraid to raise your hand. We don't want you to be. Does anyone have any questions with the 3 fingers on the bottom 3 strings? No questions. So here's what we're going to do. On your sheet, you have some counting. When we're playing music, if you've never been in a band before, and if you don't know anything about music, the great thing is you really only need to be able to count to 4 for most modern music. Sometimes you can get up to 6, but for the most part you need to count to 4. Those are the beats. So when you're clapping along with the band, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, okay? So you don't even have to take your shoes off to count with us. You can just use one hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. The and is what's in between, okay? So when you hear a drummer playing, God, That's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, okay? So if you're wondering, what is the and? That is the off beat, right? And that's what you're hearing. We go 1, 2 and 3, 4 and 1. So people, kind of struggle with that concept if you've never been in music. So we don't want to gloss over the fact that it's important to count. So if I say 1, 2, 3, 4, there is an implied middle. That's your and. 1, 2. Got it? Everybody feel that? 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and. Okay. On your sheet, you notice I have you doing something on the 1, or 2, or 3, or 4. So this is in order. And what happens sometimes when we're playing guitar and trying to learn is something that's very easy for you to get your hands on. Maybe you've got, I've got the first part, but I don't have the second part. So you'd be like 1, 2, 3, and 4, 1. That's not right. We have to go slow enough to have it in time. Every time. Okay? You can't go 1 and 2, 3, 4, and practice that way, because then your body gets used to feeling it. Again, this is muscle memory. Okay, so on our finger exercise, with your fingers where I told you, your thumb is on your low G. Each other 3 fingers is on the highest 3 in order, 1, 2, and 3. The first exercise is simply going from your thumb to the 1, to the 2, to the 3. Okay, so I want to give your left hand a break for a minute. So everybody take your hands off your neck and just focus on your right hand. Everybody hit the thumb. First. Second. Third. Good. Now what I'm doing is muting each of those. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Or you can make them ring open. Okay? So for right now, letting them ring open might be easier. So here's what we're going to do. In time, we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're going to go thumb, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Thumb, 1, 2, 3. Now, one very important aspect of doing this, I see a lot of you not remembering. This is where the first lesson helps. You have to anchor your hand when you play guitar somewhere. Otherwise, you're floating and it gets hard. Okay, so when we're playing fingerstyle and we're trying these exercises, if you notice, my thumb comes, and then I'm anchoring my thumb. I'm not lifting up my thumb. I'm always like in position, or I put my palm on the bridge and I don't move it. So my hand never moves position. One other technique I see some people do, and it might work better for you, is they'll anchor their pinky on the top. Okay? So you find your comfortable anchor point. It can be your wrist on the back of the bridge. It can be your finger. Or you can just have your hand floating, but there's always some contact point. This is as you're a beginner. This isn't the case if you're an expert. Any experts out there, I don't want your opinion. All right? So basically that's going to help you. So I'm going to speed it up now, and we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to play it that fast. You're not. suddenly we have music, okay? If I only play the bottom of our chord, if I play the... See how that works? That's really pretty cool. You're making music. Okay? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? So your exercise on your sheet, we're not going to take time so all of you get this muscle memory down. This is your homework. We don't have time for that. Because it's muscle memory, right? You got to go home and go. And you might have to start 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So as a note of encouragement, because we have some small hands, some young people, we have some a little bit more experienced hands out there that might, you know, and then some of you in between who have your whole life ahead of you. You know, basically, muscle memory as we start, it can be slow and that's okay. And this hand that's young or old is trying to form this shape, right? I just wanted to show you that in this G chord, we haven't even talked about our pointer finger yet, right? In this G chord that I've showed you, if I use this finger style exercise in the living room and I take my time and I just have those notes, nobody's going to be upset about that. Sounds pretty good, doesn't it? I can sit and get my timing down, and so it can start slow. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. So just memorize that, and this becomes locked in, okay? You won't even have to think about that. And guess what? The D works the same way. So does the C and the A and the E and every other chord on the planet. So I'm going to take the 3 chords from Ring of Fire, and I'm going to alternate them. It's beautiful, okay? So a lot of times when you're hearing these great things that have inspired you to want to play guitar, it's not as hard as you think it is. Just take time and be patient, okay? I still haven't talked about this finger. Now, I don't think I need to talk about this finger, but if you can't, again, last week, if you went home and you couldn't go, we will have time after class, and I need you to raise your hand so one of the staff or myself can make sure that we can give you a couple pointers, okay? I need you to be able to do that, or we want to see why maybe can't you do that. You're at home and you're listening and you can't do that. Come in during the week. Say, hey, I was listening to that class online, I can't play that G clean. Help me out, okay? Again, there's no embarrassment in asking. It's better than the frustration of not getting the basic. So 1, 2, 3, okay? The other exercise on the sheet for when you go home is alternating, which I believe I put 1, 2, thumb, 2, 1, 3. Thumb, 2, 1, 3. Okay, do you see that sheet? Does everybody see how that works? If there's a question, raise your hand because somebody else has the exact same question. So everybody try that a second. 1, we're going to go thumb first, thumb, and then we're going to hit our second finger, and then the first finger, and then the third. And if your hand is in the right position, with one finger on each string and your thumb here, you won't have to look down. I promise your strings are not going anywhere. Right? That's why I put my fingers here. That's why I do this, is I know where it's at. Because I also might need to look at my chords sometimes, right? So you kind of have to trust yourself. You got to make sure, all right? So, depending on what chord you're playing and where you put your thumb, that's going to help you. Okay, so we're going to get those 2 exercises down this week. Maybe try that. Start with the first one. repetitiveness helps, and then see what the second one sounds like. Is there any questions with that before we move on? So we haven't talked at all about what the left hand really is doing for this exercise, right? Because it's here. Now for the strumming exercise, I've got 2 strumming exercises on that. And it's the same concept, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Now last week we talked about when we're strumming, it doesn't matter if you use a pick or your thumb or your finger. Just get comfortable in finding a way you can anchor your hand on the guitar and strum. And if you're using a pick, we're angling it down and we're angling it up. Okay? We're not keeping it flat because it sounds terrible. We're moving it the direction we're going. We're gliding past the string while anchoring our hand. So again, muscle memory and counting would say on your sheet, if you're strumming, I have a D or a U. That stands for down or up. It's very complicated. Down is a downstroke coming from the top. Up is an upstroke. And that's what gives music a variety, okay? So if I use all downstrokes, you've got this bass heavy rhythm. So I want everybody again to go into the G, and I just want you to put your, we're gonna focus on our G chord. And I want everybody to follow me as I strum on the 1 and the and. 1 and 2 and we're only gonna do downstrokes. Keep going. Get that sound. Now you see I'm palm muting, so I've got this chunky sound. Right? My palm is kind of right on the strings. Make sure that's nice and clean. Anyone struggling with that? Raise your hand. Caleb? Keep going. She needs a little help here on that. Make sure we're in the G there. So we're going to take that, we're going to take your ring finger, drop it over to the G. Okay? So these are all 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and... A lot of driving rhythms and songs, that's what they're doing. They're downstrokes, right? So we can stop all of that driving sound. That's your downstroke. You're listening to music, trying to learn it, and you're hearing that. It's a downstroke, right? The upstroke, think almost about like Jamaican music, right? What do you mean by that? Hear that? Like, yeah, man. So that brightness is your upstroke, okay? That's all they're doing. So the combination of those is what makes the things that you hear that you really like. Or, okay, you can add variety. So I have some exercises for you to take a very common one. And again, if we go 1 and 2 and... So on the second exercise, it's easy for you to remember if you forgot your sheet. It just says dud. Just remember dud, right? Down, up, down. 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 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1 and 2, 3 and 4. Okay? So why that? Well, we're learning to control. We're learning to control the sound of our pick. So if everybody, let me do a really bad example, so you can hear how it shouldn't sound. That just gets really muddy, okay? You hear that? Like, it's just not great. And so I see a lot of beginners when they're trying to learn songs, they're not allowing they're not like muting it. You're just moving notes around. And so if you do that all the time, I'm going to do down, up, down. I'm going to change through my chords. I want you to listen. That's not very good, okay? So again, my hand is kind of palm muting here, and I've said this a lot about anchoring on the bridge. A lot of the cool stuff that you hear, it's cool because we're controlling it. It's not cool because we're just letting it go, okay? So if I go down, and I get this muted sound versus an open. Hear that? It's different than. So at home, exercise 2, we now know what a downstroke is, right? And an upstroke. So we're going to take our palm right here, and we're going to experiment at home what that sounds like. Because if I'm open versus over a little, hear that? And it changes. So you just take your downstrokes at home, and you can experiment with that G and get the sound that you really like. So some of you have smaller hands, it might look differently. Some of you have bigger hands, and you might have to, be a little bit lighter touch on it. But when we control our stroke, we keep from scratching our guitar, and we keep the guitar from sounding crazy. Okay, so on the 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 second exercise, it's down, down, up, down, down. So if I count 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, it'll sound like this. So I'm going to play the G. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1, okay? Does anybody have questions how those rhythm exercises work? Again, we probably don't have time for everybody to nail it today, but if you remember to count in time, that will sound like 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Okay? Any questions with that? Raise your hand high if there's a question with how that works. If this hand wears out, it doesn't have to be part of the game. Okay? Right? You're sitting at home, remember, it hurts. Doesn't matter. It's irrelevant to this. Okay? Your left and your right hand can do their own practice. So, if I just mute my guitar, I can just sit at home and mute it. Okay? Because later, there's a lot of cool things you can do without any notes. This is a rhythm instrument. A lot of people just use it for rhythm, right? Flamenco guys, they're doing all kinds of neat stuff. So Dave Matthews, does anyone know who Dave Matthews is in here? He's the least talented of the entire band, probably. If you've ever heard their I don't mean that, Dave. I love you, and I love your music. So if you're watching this lesson to learn how to play, thank you for joining. You just have amazing musicians. That's all I'm saying. Okay? I bring him up to say he's an incredible songwriter, but he uses this as like a rhythm tool. A lot of the chord shapes, if you watch him play, they're crazy chord shapes that most of us don't use. He just does these things. Yeah, he's in this shape, right, that you're not going to see most people do. And so if I it's a rhythm instrument. That's all I'm saying, okay? So this down-up stroke, don't minimize the power of musicality in getting this hand to do what you want it to do. So these two exercises, you can do them open, you can do them muted, you can get really crazy and open and mute, one after the other. Like, it's just how do you want it to sound, okay? So that's that G, right? Down, down, up, down, down, up. Does that make sense to everybody? So these exercises are just basic, getting your brain in time, 1 and 2. So the right hand, we've got 4 exercises on the sheet. Does anybody have any questions about that part? If we just stop right there. Okay, so with that being said, who got onto a C this week? We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, we got a few people who got onto the C. Don't rush for those of you who didn't get onto a C. The G is quite a stretch. I will tell you the D is probably the easiest one. Did anyone try a D this week?
Oh, yeah.
Did you nail it?
Oh, yeah. That was the easiest one by far.
It's so easy. Okay, have you? How's the D coming over here? You got a D down?
Yeah.
Perfect. He's nailing it. How's the G coming along?
Amazing.
All right.
Lessons are like helping.
So having that up, really nice. So here's the thing. I want you to who in this room? Now be honest. Who does not have a way to tune their guitar? Okay, anyone else? Everyone else has a way. Caleb, I want you to take a cool tuner. Over here, the cool tuners. And I want you to get it ready, and you're going to give it to this young man.
I've already got 2 already. I'm just saying I don't got a tuner.
Oh, you have a tuner?
I don't have a tuner, but that's what you're asking.
Correct. I want you to take a tuner and give it to this young man. You can have it on me. Make sure he knows how to use it after class. So, being in tune is important. Make sure you're in tune. Make sure that these little notes sound right to be good. All right, so what's next? Well, right now, if we're going to learn Ring of Fire, we need to get that strumming hand down. I want everybody to get into your G. I want you to play every note down the line and make sure that it's nice and clean. And if it's not clean and you can't figure out why, raise your hand high. Where did Caleb go? Oh, sorry, I already have you doing something. Luke or Ethan? This young lady right here with the Taylor Swift guitar. There you go. Yeah, cross that leg over, kind of make it higher if it makes it easier. And Luke's going to just help you out, make sure that that hand is in the right position. Playing guitar is not easy. You don't have to be embarrassed if you're not. We just don't want to leave you behind, all right? So think if it's starting to hurt you a little bit. Yeah. Don't worry, that feeling will go away. All right? So when we're at home, we're going to practice all 3 chords this week. I said all 3 chords, G, C, D. You have them on the sheet. If you don't know how to get there, let us know. Raise your hand. We're going to practice. We're in our G, okay? Everybody get into that G. We're going to take our first finger exercise, go 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm just going going to do this for a few minutes so you all get right along with me. Very good. So we're going to start, and everyone get pretty close in their position. We're going to all start together nice and slow. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Luke, this young man, I would like you to help him get his hand into a position so each finger is on a string and the thumb. Okay? If you're trying to float, I mean, you can do this with a pick. That's a different discipline. We're not there yet, okay? So you can do that. But we're not doing that. That's another technique. You'll learn that there's a lot of different ways to make your guitar sound differently. And that's just part of the cool part of the process. Did we get it over here on the left? Everybody figuring that out? If you haven't figured it out, please raise your hand. Okay. So if you take that this week, it's a way that you can make your guitar sound beautiful, add rhythm to it, then switch to your next chord. Okay? As my friend over here on the right said, the D's the easiest. I started you on a G. Figured if you couldn't make it through the G, then maybe you didn't deserve to play a D anyway. I'm kidding. The D is easy. And so one last thing I want to tell you about this. We've been working on the low string and the high strings, right? Just those. We actually left out that other little note. Now, these fingers can really, I can put my fingers on only the bottom 4. If you're really struggling and your hand hurts but you want it to sound good, maybe just take that ring finger on that high E, which was how we began at the beginning. So let's all do that. One more fret up for you. Yep, 3rd fret. There you go. And I can put my thumb on that 4th string instead of on the 1st. I can put it right here. So each of my fingers is on just these bottom 4. See how that works? No? So go ahead and go 1, 2, 3, 4. Caleb, just kind of make sure. Very good. Okay, because when we're in a D shape, see how that works? So these fingers can go really anywhere, and when we're seeing people play later, once we get this down, you can alternate your thumb on the bottom notes. So it sounds like... So once you get the muscles in time, then later you can move where that thumb is going, which is like really important for banjo, right, Mary?
Yeah.
So if you ever wanted to play banjo, like this is kind of a basic thing for banjo. They do these and they call these different things a roll, right? And so you think somebody's doing something amazing, but all they're really doing is they have this pattern, right? It's not that big of a deal. It just sounds kind of like a big deal. So get the first part down. And if you nail it and you're bored by Tuesday doing this, it's like, oh my gosh, this is killing me. Try to get that next note out and figure figure out why that's not sounding if the thumb's getting in the way. Okay, go to your D. Now, some of you aren't going to be there, but I'm just saying, for those of you really advanced students who are like, man, you're killing me, Smalls, just go ahead and remember, like, those little exercises are the part of it, right? Alternating the thumb on all those other notes, that's why those notes exist, but you don't have to play them to make music. It's just an option. So that is going to get us to the end of what we're going to talk about. On the bottom of this sheet, I have an explanation if you've been on ultimateguitar.com and you've pulled something up and you don't know what you're looking at. It's called tablature. That bottom diagram explains what they're doing with reading tablature. We aren't talking about that today. That is an introduction to what you're looking at. We will go into that, so keep your sheet and bring it back next week. But it's how you would learn something like this. Okay? You can all learn that. It isn't a big deal. This hand is doing exactly what I just talked about. I'm going. These two are coming together. Ding, ding, ding. Okay? So, look at my right hand. Oh, it's hard to do it slow. That's what it's doing. Okay? Like, again, things that you heard that seem really hard, if we break this down and get our muscle memory, you don't have to worry about it. You'll be doing it in a heartbeat. I know, because I have a 14-year-old who can play that song. She's been playing less than a year probably, maybe 2. Okay? It's not a big deal, but the tabs that you look up when you're like, how do I play this song? They write it out like that, and you just take your time. And you're like, oh, I've got those 2 notes together. Then I've got that note separately and that note, but it's a pattern, and the sooner you can get your roll down, the sooner you can do some really cool stuff that you've heard. Dust in the Wind. You're hearing a pattern, okay? That's all it is. So the beautiful things that you've heard are actually very simple, and I'm saying this as an encouragement to you. You are in the absolute hardest part. So if you can make it through this, you will continue on. So we're going to give you those tools. If you have questions, raise your hand super high. This class is over. Thank you for coming. Good job. And if you have any questions on what's been talked about, raise your hand, because we're going to help you succeed before you leave. All right. If I've got some people who aren't doing anything, attend to the highly raised hands, and let's get these guys taken care of.